Part 155. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1541. Even though Zuyun was well informed, he had never imagined such a situation. What frightened him even more was that the keel bones were connected together, and the formation pattern with the light of dragon scales that he saw was actually more like light passing through the keel bones. From beginning to end, he was wrong. Zuyun carefully stared at the keel within sight, including various parts. The long one has dragon spine, the short one has finger bones, and the shorter one. He also saw tiny dragon teeth. Is this always the case, or did this change happen after Nangang Tianli came? Zuyun's eyes became more solemn. If it's the former, it's just that this ancient demonic dragon formation has a weird aura. But if it's the latter, I'm afraid Nangang Tianli is just waiting here to lure him in and kill him with the formation. Zuyun himself also uses the formation, and he knows how lethal the formation will be after it is used properly. Nangang Tianli has many tricks and scheming intentions. Even at the same level of strength, he is not sure of victory. Now that I can't see through this ancient demonic dragon formation at all, I'm afraid it won't be that easy to kill him. But it's all here. Either you die, or I live. Zuyun had never thought about going out alone. Now that he was here, he was naturally prepared for the worst. As soon as his heart condensed, he quickly condensed 5 incarnations. You have 7 demon bodies? Oh, then I have 5 incarnations. Zuyun controls the 5 incarnations and surrounds the main body based on the principle of mutual generation and restraint of the 5 elements. Under the light of the burning sun, continue to move forward. At the same time, he also discovered patterns on the keel. The direction in which the array of light flashes is the direction in which these demonic energies are going. When Nangang Tianli woke up, he first devoured the cultivation of a bunch of immortal medicines, and then tried to devour Nujiao's last remnant soul. It was not enough for him to devour the power of this ancient demonic dragon formation for his own use. Surprising. However, whether he restores the 7 demon bodies first, or uses these demonic energy as power, I should be able to deal with it in the 5th incarnation, which should be a feasible method. Zuyun had no other suitable means. Apart from the immortal soul hammer, I can only think about it in this aspect. However, spirit stones can form formations and spirit beads can form formations. I wonder if my 5 incarnations can also form formations. Zuyun also had a whim, wondering if Nangang Tianli could fight against him, and then whether he could do the same. The 5 incarnations are all transformed from spiritual beads, which are pure enough in terms of spiritual power. At the same time, it makes perfect sense to arrange them according to the 5 elements. Then the only problem is, the 5 incarnations are on the move. However, the reason why the formation eyes are not moving is actually to stabilize the flow of power and avoid being affected. If the 5 incarnations advance and retreat at the same time, can this problem be avoided? Zuyun just thought about it for a moment and felt that it was feasible. The 5 incarnations are all within 1 foot of his body, and their minds are completely connected. With just one thought, the 5 incarnations can move at the same time. With his own control, Zuyun tried it, and there was no problem. So what's next is bush. Zuyun understands the principles of the 5 elements, but he has never created his own formation on it. The only thing that has something to do with him is that it was changed from the 5 elements formation used by Tang Tiangang to control the demonization of the monks who practiced the 10,000 demons art. Changed to self-destruction formation. That's not possible, Zuyun smiled bitterly. If the 5 incarnations were allowed to self-destruct and I was so close, wouldn't it be? After shaking his head, Zuyun's eyes suddenly lit up. The art of 10,000 demons is an evil cultivation method, and it was Yao Fuzong who found a new way from the immortal method of the upper world. The function of the five elements formation is to control the demonic power within it. That demonic power is by no means pure demonic power, it should be called evil demonic power. So, the five elements formation is effective in stabilizing the evil in the evil demon's power. Nangong Tianli has both demon blood, and he must also have human blood. In addition, he is an evil immortal, he must be extremely evil. And I, using this five elements formation to trap him, may have unexpected effects. Thinking of this, Zuyun was overjoyed. The principles and layout of the five elements formation are extremely simple, and Zuyun can do it easily. It's just that he has never used it. But as he successively broke through to the void refining stage and the fusion stage, he became more and more familiar with the control of power in his body. If he met Nangong Tianli again, it wouldn't be difficult to do so. If you encounter Nangong Tianli, let the five incarnations go over and trap him in it. If the five elements formation is useless, it will quickly turn into a self-destruction formation. It just so happens that I am not in the center. Even if I sacrifice these five incarnations, I will not be able to do anything. Nangong Tianli must be killed. Zuyun formed a perfect plan in his mind. At this time, Nangong Tianli, who had been practicing, was awakened by a burst of light. Zuyun came, so fast. He opened his eyes suddenly and couldn't believe it. Recalling that he had nowhere to hide before, and that he had fled to various demon bodies and was killed one after another, Nangong Tianli couldn't help but set his sights on Fen Tianri. I understand why there is sun and no moon in this world, because it may have been transformed by Fenchen. Fen Tianyan was originally his heavenly fire, but now he mistakenly regarded Fen Tianri as Fen Tianyan. In that case, can I make a difference in burning sky flame? He immediately thought about the possibility of this matter. He didn't find it strange that burning sky flame followed Zuyun. But after all, burning sky flame was raised by himself, and it took countless years. In addition, he has a method of controlling fire, which is several times stronger than the spiritual fire formula that Zuyun learned in the lower world. You can't imagine it, burning sky flame will turn against you at that time. Nangong Tianli was very excited. Although Zuyun came a little faster, he felt that he had one more means. Slowly getting up, he shook his body, and 6 demon bodies separated and sank into the darkness. Arrogance, jealousy, rage, laziness, greed, gluttony, and lust. Each demon body has a very distinctive feature. And the one who stayed in place was naturally arrogant. Zuyun, you are finally here. The arrogant demon body spoke lightly. And this time, the other demon bodies did not speak at the same time. Zuyun looked in the direction of the voice. I will definitely come, he smiled and said, because only one of you and me can survive. Why? Just because you have 5 incarnations. The arrogant demon body showed a disdainful look and said, I don't know what your confidence is. Originally, we could coexist peacefully, but you pushed yourself into the abyss. Zuyun shook his head and said, it was obviously you who pushed yourself from the demon world outside the domain into the abyss of the fairy world. As soon as the voice fell, Zuyun's 5 incarnations disappeared out of thin air. When they reappeared, they had surrounded the arrogant demon body. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1542. Who wouldn't know how to do it if there are more people than him? Nangong Tianli was not afraid at all, and raised his head proudly. The 6 demon bodies surrounded Zuyun instead. Then let's give it a try. Zuyun shouted, and his aura suddenly increased. In an instant, he held the immortal soul hammer in his hand and turned a circle on the spot with his body as the axis. Such a momentum made the 6 demon bodies retreat one after another. But Nangong Tianli was also a veteran of battles. When Zuyun's aura dropped slightly, he quickly surrounded him. The 6 demon bodies used different methods. There were magic, fairy magic, and magic. But Zhu Yun used the immortal soul hammer to control the Wuji sword art, stepped on the Changsheng art, and from time to time he would free up a hand to draw the spirit talisman. He did not use the heavenly talisman for the time being because he was afraid that Nangang Tianli would recognize him. He had seen the ancestor of the Lin family. In this way, taking advantage of the chaotic power in his body, he fought evenly. Meanwhile, Zhu Yun's 5 incarnations were also circling around the arrogant demon body. It wasn't that the arrogant demon body didn't want to take action, but he was surprised to find that these 5 incarnations were flawless. There were clearly 5 incarnations, but he felt that there was only one. How could he know that the 5 incarnations could merge into one and become the chaos incarnation? Not to mention that Zhu Yun was already here, and his mind was completely connected, so the 5 incarnations could also deal with it independently. The two sides achieved a tense situation, and Nangang Tianli took advantage of the demonic energy here to deal with Zhu Yun, and for a while he was not at a disadvantage. This made Nangang Tianli feel surprised again, and he couldn't help but focus on what he thought was the burning sky flame. The burning sky sun hanging above his head seemed to be completely useless except for lighting. Could it be that he has no fire control method, but simply took the burning sky for his own use, and then refined it into the sun in the great universe glass mirror? Nangang Tianli was also very cautious, although he felt that he was sure of it and determined that it was the burning sky flame. But this was the last straw he was going to use to crush Zhu Yun, and he would not use it rashly. And this battle lasted for several hours, and no one could do anything to anyone. Zhu Yun did not find that the 6 demon bodies had weakened their momentum, and knew that the other party must have fully mastered the ancient demon dragon formation, which would provide him with a continuous supply of demonic energy. Look at himself. Separating 5 incarnations meant that the chaos power in his body was reduced by half. There was no new power flowing into this formation, so even if he wanted to refine it, he was willing but unable. Does it mean that I have to use the 5 elements formation in advance? It's not that he didn't want to use it, but the 5 incarnations now only trapped one arrogant demon body. After the previous experience, if one is destroyed, the other 6 will not be affected. In this way, the trump card is also revealed. How about trying to make him put all the demon bodies together again? Zhu Yun did what he said, and there was no way to go on like this. He couldn't be sure which one was more, the remaining demon spirit here or the chaotic power in his body. In this case, he could only lure Nangang Tianli, hoping he would be fooled. Zhu Yun's mind was focused, and his body suddenly disappeared. The next moment, he stood between the arrogant demon bodies with the immortal soul hammer, and smashed down on his head. I expected you to do this. The arrogant demon body smiled knowingly, and a strange color flashed in his eyes. This competition is about who has more power, and who has less patience. He could naturally see that Zhu Yun had broken through to the fusion stage. Moreover, he also knew enough about the advantages and disadvantages of practicing the 5 Elements Chaos Sutra. If he was treated with this technique, he would not panic at all. What really made him fearful was Zhu Yun's 4-direction Divine Beast Fist. The fist technique containing the power of the law would really hurt him. But he also knew Zhu Yun's concerns. Could his 4-direction Divine Beast Fist destroy all of his 7 demon bodies? That's why, in the end, he chose to use the spirit of the demon here to restore his demon body first. The immortal soul hammer glowed with golden light, but the arrogant demon body turned into a black shadow and disappeared into the darkness. If it weren't for the burning sun, Zhu Yun couldn't see where the arrogant demon body went. Come again. Zhu Yun's eyes flashed with strange colors, and he raised the immortal soul hammer to chase again. He wanted to force the arrogant demon body to the side of the other demon bodies to see if he would merge into one. Nangang Tianli followed suit, with a sneer on his lips. Everything developed as he expected. Zhu Yun was in his control. The arrogant demon body seemed a little panicked, and indeed ran towards the other demon bodies. Zhu Yun's hammer missed, and suddenly merged the 5 incarnations into his body again. Suddenly, his momentum surged again, and his figure suddenly jumped forward. It didn't even take half a breath, and the immortal soul hammer had already landed on the head of the arrogant incarnation. Ha ha ha, Zhu Yun, you've been fooled. The arrogant incarnation laughed wildly and turned around, and quickly pinched a few spells in his hand. Fenshin, burn him for me. After the spell was completed, the arrogant incarnation was different, letting the immortal soul hammer fall on his head, but one hand was pointing at Zhu Yun. Such a calm attitude also made Zhu Yun suddenly frightened. Could it be that Nangang Tianli could still control the burning sky sun? But the immortal soul hammer had already exerted force. If he wanted to stop it, he would suffer the backlash of the chaotic force, causing injuries. This is not good for him in a long battle. Blast him first. Zhu Yun gritted his teeth, concentrated his attention, and smashed the arrogant demon body into black light, which finally dissipated into the air. Then, he also raised his head suddenly, but the burning sky sun hanging above his head did not change at all. He was stunned. Could it be that Nangang Tianli was cheating? Just as this thought flashed through his mind, he heard the 6 demon bodies exclaimed in unison, "This is not the burning sky flame." Zhu Yun suddenly realized that he had mistaken the burning sky sun for the burning sky flame. He laughed, and his figure shook, and 5 incarnations condensed from the main body again. Ha ha ha, now it's 6 against 6, it's fair. After that, the 5 incarnations, together with the main body, rushed up at the same time, stepping on the Chang Shengju. Take advantage of his arrogance and kill one of his main bodies to consume him first. Nangang Tianli also made a quick decision. The 6 demon bodies merged into one and turned into human form again. Only one arrogant demon body was missing, and the human form that was revealed was actually in a mess. But he never thought that this was Zhu Yun forcing him to merge. In an instant, the 5 incarnations flashed, and before Nangang Tianli could make a move, the 5 incarnations disappeared from the side of the main body and appeared beside Nangang Tianli. Surrounded him with the 5 elements sequence. 5 elements formation, start. Zhu Yun suppressed the excitement in his heart and roared. The 5 incarnations, the spiritual power on their bodies surged out, entangled together, forming a 5-color circle, covering Nangang Tianli tightly in it. Zhu Yun, you cheated. Nangang Tianli was shocked and angry. Zhu Yun smiled contemptuously, all is fair in war, not to mention dealing with you, a bastard who is neither human nor demon, nor monster. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1543. In order to prevent Nangang Tianli from having a way to escape, Zhu Yun stopped talking nonsense and immediately transformed the 5 incarnations into the 5 elements spiritual power, forming a stable 5-element spiritual circle. Nangang Tianli, who was in the center of the circle, had nowhere to escape. This is clearly a piece of 5-color light cloth that completely covers him. There is no gap through which he can escape. Zhu Yun, let me go, I can take you to the fairy world. Nangang Tianli, who knew he was unable to escape, suddenly changed his tone and cried bitterly to Zhu Yun, constantly begging for mercy. But Zhu Yun was unmoved, not because Meng Wei also told him how to go to the immortal world, but because a nightmare immortal like Nangang Tianli should not exist in the world. Zhu Yun, really, I have been in the fairy world for a long time and have been operating it for hundreds of thousands of years. The entire southern fairyland is under my control. Moreover, you are so smart, if you join forces with me, you can even control the entire fairy world. Zhu Yun snorted coldly, funny words. Nangong Tianli's posture further proves that the five elements spiritual array can restrain him. Also, the five elements formation arranged with spirit stones can suppress the evil cultivator's 10,000 demon art. With his own incarnation as the source of power in the formation, the power is even greater. It's just a pity that these incarnations will probably be useless here. However, there are many spiritual beads in the Qingping Immortal Kingdom, and there are still many spiritual beads in the main body. If it is too big, I will condense a few more incarnations when the time comes. Now that he is in the integration stage, refining his incarnation is a piece of cake. Zhu Yun was unmoved at all and allowed Nangong Tianli to change from sweet words to pleading. Finally, Nangong Tianli knew that he could not convince Zhu Yun no matter what, so he suddenly shouted hysterically, "In this case, don't even think about it, I will force you to stand up to me even to death." Upon hearing this, Zhu Yun's face darkened, and he involuntarily took a few steps back. I saw that Nangong Tianli's figure began to surge. This is something I haven't seen in a long time. Explode. Do you want to explode? Then let me show you, who explodes harder, you or I. Zhu Yun suddenly became ferocious. As long as he could definitely kill Nangong Tianli, what did the loss of a few incarnations mean? Immediately, he took a few steps back and changed his mind at the same time. Boom! They were originally connected together, just like the five incarnations of Qi Hai in Zhu Yun's early days, but suddenly they were separated. But then, the spiritual power they poured out quickly intertwined and collided. It turns out that they are connected by force. But at this time, everything became incompatible. The extremely pure spiritual power quickly became a mess, and all of it rushed towards Nangong Tianli. No. Impossible. When all these spiritual powers enveloped Nangong Tianli's figure and the demonic energy in his body could no longer grow, he roared unwillingly. Could it be that he couldn't even die together with Zhu Yun? Hateful. Listening to Nangong Tianli's hysterical roar, Zhu Yun's face was stern, and he used the divine eye technique without any scruples. Chaos power passed quickly through his body, and Zhu Yun ran wildly in the direction he came from. As for what would happen to this strange statue, he had not considered it at all. As long as Nangong Tianli is killed, any price can be paid. The self-destruction array explodes very quickly. But because Nangong Tianli's pure demonic energy was mixed in, it did leave Zhu Yun with a chance to breathe. It wasn't until he ran to the place where he landed and looked up and saw the gray sky that there was an explosion on the ground. At the same time, the sound of dragon roars sounded again, coming from all directions. But this time, he heard a feeling of relief from pain. His mind was slightly disturbed, but without thinking too much, he stood up and ran towards the outside. Boom! 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 Several explosions followed, but Zhu Yun had already flown up and was not affected at all. But if he continues to stay here, there is no guarantee that the turbulent spiritual energy generated by the explosion will fly him out. The universe is his world. But the restrictions imposed by the rules of heaven only apply to the period of transcending tribulation. As he flew upward, large swaths of rocks fell off around the pit. Before it reaches the bottom of the valley, it will turn into endless dust. Zhu Yun did not dare to neglect, knowing that the surge of spiritual power was already chasing him. Watching the light gradually getting brighter, he shouted angrily at the top of his lungs, "Run, you guys run quickly." The two immortal kings, Day and Dian, were originally waiting outside. When they heard what Zhu Yun said, they couldn't help but feel stunned. The vibrations under the ground had actually reached the ground long ago. They were even more worried that Zhu Yun was in danger, so they let them leave. "Zhu Xian, we won't leave." The great Knight Immortal King also roared. Zhu Yunren was still in the formation. When he heard this, he couldn't help but cursed, "If you don't leave, just stay here and wait to die." "I'll leave first." How could he care about these two people at this time? But if they ran away first at this time, they would probably be able to escape alive. On the contrary, it was him who could not save himself. Because as the cave wall collapsed, the yellow sand from the gobi poured down like flowing water. Lu Chen almost had to dig 3 feet into the ground to look for Nangong Tianli. There was so much sand here that it was terrifying. It's entirely possible to fill this place up. He couldn't guarantee whether he would die if he was buried alive here. After all, there is an ancient demon dragon formation here. The two immortal kings heard Zhu Yun's direct words and also heard the problem. Immortal King Dian didn't wait for Immortal King Day to react, and pulled him away. There was a golden light on his forehead, and countless pseudo-immortal powers, with the power of the immortal root, instantly transformed into a golden dragon under his feet. Zhu Yun just emerged from the bottom of the pit and saw that the two immortal kings ran faster than him. Your ability to escape is not weak. After taking a breath, Zhu Yun also smiled self-deprecatingly, and then began to use teleportation. Until the edge of the Gobi Desert, they arrived at the broken immortal river, and the three of them got into the river without hesitation. It seems that with the broken immortal river as the boundary, the mountain forest is not affected. However, Zhu Yun did not dare to stay here to find out the reason, and it was more important to escape. Imperial City. Ji Tianqing stood up with a happy face while spitting blood. The city was full of immortals kneeling before Zhu Yun's golden body. In addition to the Imperial City, the rest of the royal cities were actually the same. Finally, the water of the broken immortal river was surging, and 3 figures rushed out of the broken immortal river with huge water columns. Ha ha ha, welcome Zhu Xian back. Ji Tianqing laughed loudly, and the sound spread throughout the imperial city. Then, hundreds of thousands of people said in unison, welcome Zhu Xian back. When they saw Zhu Yun again, they knew that Zhu Xian was fine, and their immortal path was fine. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1544. Hearing the shouts of these people, Zhu Yun was almost frightened and fell from the sky. Unlike before when he merged with Yang Huo, he had already expected it. This time he escaped from the demonic Dragon Valley in a hurry and was unprepared. Such a deafening sound really caught him off guard. He turned around and saw a huge golden statue. Looking down, he saw countless immortals with endless fiery gazes. Call. He exhaled slightly, adjusted his mood, and then stretched out his hands and pressed down. Suddenly, the entire imperial city fell silent. Zhu Yun felt a little proud in his heart. He cleared his throat and said, everyone, the crisis has been eliminated. Boom. There was a loud bang in the imperial city. This is the cheers from everyone at the same time. This time Zhu Yun was prepared, so he wouldn't be frightened and fall down. After touching his nose, Zhu Yun did not stop him until the enthusiastic crowd gradually returned to calm. Okay, you should cultivate immortality and go wherever you need to cool down. Zhu Yun also made a joke, and there was another burst of laughter from below. However, they no longer stayed here, but returned to where they should go. Ji Tianqing looked at everyone with a smile, took out an immortal talisman from her arms, and informed the 18 royal cities of the news. There is no longer an immortal king in the royal city, and the city lord is responsible for everything. Today, there are only 2 immortal kings in Qingping Immortal Kingdom, namely Day and Dian. They also stay in the imperial city for a long time. After everyone dispersed, Zhu Yun flew down to the roof and stood beside Ji Tianqing. Xiaji, it's all thanks to you this time. The moment he saw the golden body, he also thought of the power of faith that suddenly appeared in the sky at that time, and knew that it was Ji Tianqing who ordered all the immortals to do it. I do it for myself, Ji Tianqing said with a smile. If something happens to you, I won't be able to be this carefree immortal emperor. Zuyun was stunned for a moment, then laughed. He had already seen many beautiful female fairies with big bellies in the palace. Xiaoji, you still have to exercise restraint. You are not young at your age. How can your waist bear it? Ji Tianqing was immediately unconvinced and said, when it comes to this matter, Zuyun, I am no worse than you. We immortals are different from you monks. It's different. What's different? Zuyun was completely relaxed at this time and was not in a hurry to leave. At this time, he wanted to find someone to talk to, so he sat down on the roof of the palace. Hold your hands together and put them outside your knees. Ji Tianqing also had no image of an immortal emperor, sitting next to Zuyun. It's different, Ji Tianqing said with a bitter smile. Before my ancestor left, he gave me a death order to strengthen the Ji family so that I could become the #1 family in the universe. Maybe this is his only obsession. Bar. Zuyun couldn't help but think of Lin Xiaoqi. Sometimes ancestral teachings do have a great influence. Lin Xiaoqi just stopped practicing and devoted himself to continuing the bloodline of the Lin family. Looking at it now, the two of them are very similar. Seeing Zuyun staring at her like this, Ji Tianqing deliberately provoked, are you envious? If you have the guts, go and have a baby. How about we compete to see who has more babies? Who am I going to give birth to? Things are so busy right now. There are still a bunch of evil cultivators in the spiritual world. Zuyun couldn't help but think of Mengwei, a woman who focused on herself. Besides, even if he had a baby with her, he wouldn't be able to have a baby with Ji Tianqing. Xiaoji, you were in Ji Dan sect before. Do you know anything about evil cultivators? As soon as he got down to business, Zuyun lost his mind and asked about matters in the spiritual world. I didn't know, Ji Tianqing said, I have too much time to take care of myself. I only know that there is something abnormal about the Ji Dan section, but it was only later that I found out that the Ji Dan sect is actually a descendant of the evil immortal. This was what my ancestor told me. He was born in Qingping Fairy Kingdom and did not know what happened on Qingping Star. Okay, Zuyun stood up and said, then it's time for me to leave. Thinking about things in the spiritual world gives me a headache. Ji Tianqing, however, disagreed and said, Zuyun, since your universe world can bring in the Qingping Immortal Kingdom, why not just bring in the spirit world as well? When the time comes, when millions of immortals like me go out to fight, what's the point? No matter how many evil cultivators there are in the spiritual world, they are not affected by the realm. Moreover, after entering this world, even the immortal emperor can't escape, let alone those evil immortals. Zuyun was stunned for a moment. You said, bring in the spirit world as well. Yes, although the Qingping Immortal Kingdom is just a fragment, it is still a fragment of the heaven-level world star. We don't want to take over the entire yellow star, but just take over the spirit world. In this way, the spirit world should only be considered fragments, right? I think instead of running around the spiritual world to kill evil cultivators, you might as well bring them in and beat them up. Zuyun frowned. What Ji Tianqing said seemed to make sense. Can be collected from the spirit world. Aren't the monks in the mortal world less likely to continue cultivating immortality? If you want them to be able to continue practicing, you have to bring in the mortal world. Hey, Zuyun, is this a good idea? Unfortunately, this matter is too big and I can't figure it out. Otherwise, I would have to figure it out for you no matter what. After saying that, he wiped the corners of his mouth, and the back of his hand was covered with blood. That's enough, Zuyun said unhappily, don't tell fortunes if you don't have anything to do. It's not good for you to reveal the secrets of heaven. What are you afraid of? Ji Tianqing said disapprovingly, as long as I am in your universe, nothing will happen. At most, when my lifespan is almost over, I will choose to ascend. I believe that by then, the laws of your universe will have been perfected. I hope so, Zuyun sighed, to be honest, I also hope that you can all live forever. As he said, he waved his hand and said, I should go too. The 12 demon saints are still missing. I will go back and try to see if I can save them. Then I won't keep you. Otherwise, I will say I will treat you to a meal. Let each of my wives toast you a glass of wine. Zuyun rolled his eyes and stopped talking. He bowed to the two immortal kings Day and Dian, and then left. The teleportation array of City Lord Shui and Zhou Pao has not been deployed here yet, and Zuyun doesn't know where they are. But suddenly, he thought of another question. Where is the burning sky sun? He suddenly raised his head, and the sky was empty. Although it was bright, he had never seen any sun. At that time, he escaped from the ancient demon dragon formation, and it seemed that he had no way to control the burning sky sun. And all along, he had been carrying the burning sky sun through the chaos avatar. Now, the avatar is gone, and it seems that the burning sky sun is also destroyed. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1545. Forget it for now, let's go find the formation immortal first. Zuyun flew for days and finally returned to World Mountain. On the top of the mountain, the formation immortal was still sleeping. The same goes for World Tree and World Mountain. All the original power was dispersed back into the land, and everything was running in an orderly manner according to a certain inertia. Zuyun, is it solved? Now the only one who can talk to Zuyun is Xianxia. It's solved, formation immortal. Not sure. Xianxia sighed, even if he fell asleep like this, he would not die or survive. It seems that we can only wait for a while before talking. At least the breath is still stable. Zuyun took a look and said, I'll go over there. What are you going to do there? That's where monsters gather. Well, something happened to the 12 demon saints. The totem pole is over there. Let me see if the totem pole can save them. Ah, something happened to them. Xianxia couldn't help but be surprised. Yes, Zuyun responded. He was not very interested. After bidding farewell to Xianxia, he flew directly across the sea of the world. The 12 totem poles had been standing, so Zuyun took out the stone sculptures of the 12 demon saints and placed them one by one according to their ethnic group affiliation. And when he finished this, he was pleasantly surprised to find that the animal eyes on the totem pole actually emitted light and shone on the corresponding stone sculptures. It looks like he's been saved. Zuyun was immediately overjoyed. However, from what he could see at this time, he could not see any changes in the stone sculptures. You can't just wait here, right? A smile appeared on Zuyun's face, and he flew back to Xianxia's side, saying, Master, you will take care of this place for the time being. Formation immortal, there must be no accidents. I know, are you going back? Yes, I don't know how long it has been since I got back. Go back, it's not a good thing to stay here all the time. But, your level has risen quite quickly. Zuyun was speechless. To be honest, he vaguely knew the reason for breaking through the realm, but he didn't know how to explain it. After waving his hand, Zuyun dodged away. The next moment, he appeared in the cave of the Immortal Mansion. Every time he enters the Immortal Mansion, he will appear here. Even if the Immortal Mansion is completely integrated into one, there are no accidents. After thinking for a moment, Zuyun took out the Tianfu and placed it on the stone shelf again. Brother Lin, the evil fairy leader is dead. When you wake up, I will tell you the good news. After muttering to himself, Zuyun walked out of the cave. After looking at Xianxia, and then at Hualong Pond and the trial platform in his mind, Zuyun quickly left the Immortal Mansion. Before, he couldn't leave. But now, all it takes is one thought. Zuyun's body, sleeping in front of the sarcophagus, suddenly opened his eyes, and he saw a pretty face close at hand. "Wea, long time no see." Feeling the familiar body, Zuyun showed a faint smile. "Zuyun, you're finally awake, I almost thought you wouldn't wake up." Meng Wei burst into tears. She kept holding Zuyun and sitting on the ground, letting Zuyun's head rest on her thigh. "Stop crying, don't cry, am I awake now? Also, I'm telling you some good news, do you want to listen?" Zuyun was in a hurry and sat up quickly. "What good news?" Meng Wei had no idea what was happening. She didn't even know that Nangang Tianli's remnant soul was hidden among those glass fragments. "That's right, Nangang Tianli is dead." "You know his name?" Meng Wei's face was filled with shock. She never told Zuyun the name of the southern immortal emperor. "Yes, dead." Zuyun's eyes flashed and he said, "I have been fighting with him in the cosmic glazed mirror, so I can't get out of it. The gain is not small, but the loss is also not small." Zuyun smiled and said, "There is still your last remnant soul in the magic jade bed. Can I take you in?" Meng Wei's eyes flashed, and after a moment, she nodded, "Okay. Relax and follow me." Zuyun smiled slightly and took the initiative to hold Meng Wei's hand. With a thought, he took her into it. "It feels so familiar." Meng Wei also murmured, and she felt a little bit of demonic energy. She walked out of the cave and saw the bedroom at a glance. For a moment, she hesitated. "Don't be afraid, I'm here." Zuyun squeezed her hand and encouraged her. "Well," Meng Wei raised his head, looked at Zuyun, and said, "I believe you. However, when I fuse, I may fall into a deep sleep. Then, don't be afraid, you can sleep as long as you want." Zuyun smiled. "Thank you, Zuyun." Meng Wei pear blossoms bring rain. Zuyun also sighed in his heart. It can be said that the original Meng Wei was a saint from the Holy Demon clan who was exploited by Nangang Tianli. But now, the Meng Wei in front of him is a Meng Wei who is devoted to him. What else is he worried about? "Let's go." Zuyun led Meng Wei to the bedroom, then pushed the door open and entered. "Immortal Emperor, you are finally back." On the magic jade bed, Nujiao's remnant soul suddenly sat up. But when she felt Meng Wei's breath, she was a little stunned. She couldn't see anything, and everything was done by feeling. "I'm not the immortal emperor who has returned, but, you should be back." Meng Wei felt mixed emotions. She let go of Zuyun's hand and slowly leaned towards the magic jade bed. No. Don't come over, don't come over." Nujiao's remnant soul seemed to feel something was wrong and wanted to shrink into the magic jade bed. But I don't know if Nangang Tianli had done something before. Nujiao's remnant soul couldn't hide, so she had to shrink to the corner of the bed. "Since you're here, you can't escape." Meng Wei sighed, turned his back to Zuyun, and began to undress. One by one, the gorgeous clothes were taken off, revealing a smooth back. Zuyun was stunned, shocked by the back as smooth as cream. But before he could come to his senses, Meng Wei had already climbed onto the magic jade bed and got into the quilt. "This is not a good look." Zuyun smiled bitterly and said, "Wei, I'm leaving first." He turned and left the bedroom, and closed the door for her. Inside, Nujiao's painful voice came out. Zuyun knew that this was Meng Wei forcibly merging Nujiao's residual soul again. Only in this way, Meng Wei would return to a complete body and magic soul. "Now, I should leave too, let's go to the spirit world first." Zuyun left the fairy house again and appeared in the fairy tomb. But when he left the fairy tomb, the scene in front of him made him horrified. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1546. This was originally an ice field. It looks very similar to the Arctic ice field in the spiritual world. But at this time, the ice sheet here was riddled with holes, as if it had suffered a heavy blow. Moreover, the wind in the air is stronger, but at the same time, the spiritual power is also stronger. The most important thing is, Zuyun found that his realm was not restricted at all. I'm in the northern mortal world, not the spiritual world. Zuyun frowned and murmured. While entangled with Nangong Tianli, he was reminding himself. But there is only one explanation. This place may be connected to the spirit world. The feeling here is very similar to the Arctic ice field. The realm was no longer suppressed, and Zuyun naturally had no reservations. He directly began to teleport away. But along the way, he was thinking about the reason. If the two realms of mortals and spirits are really connected, what changes will happen to this yellow star? Zuyun was also puzzled. In the world of the universe, Ji Tianqing also mentioned that the best way to deal with the evil immortals was to absorb the spirit world into the world of the universe. But who would have thought that just after he left the world of the universe and walked out of the immortal tomb, he would discover a change? If this is the case, what about the three mortal realms in the south, and west? Are you connected with the spirit world? Zuyun was deep in thought while running towards the outside of the ice field. However, he still scanned with his soul from time to time, but he never found an ice demon living here. Except for the ice trees that stood tall in the ice and snow, there was no breath of life here. After running like this for several days, there was still no sign of life. This was still the case until he left the ice demon realm. Anyway, we have to go through the spiritual world passage on our way back and look southward. The sea area of Bifan realm is in the south, and Liukan is very close to the wild sea area. But as Zuyun continued to run, he became more and more frightened. The entire North Mortal realm is exactly the same as the Ice Demon realm. Where are the people? Where are the monsters? Where are the creatures? Zuyun's eyes widened and his speed slowed down a bit. He was still somewhat worried about what would happen if Liukan, the largest city in the Northern Mortal realm, had no one left. But no matter how slow he went, he still reached Liukan after all. There is someone in the city. He was slightly relieved, but he did not go down rashly, but swept over with his soul. Compared with the prosperity of Liukan before, the population at this time is extremely depleted. At the same time, these people who stayed here actually, they are all mortal. Weird. Zuyun didn't believe it. The Bifan realm was not small. There were so many monks and demon cultivators, and they would never make news out of thin air. After thinking for a while, Zuyun continued southward without stopping. But the strange thing is that he flew for several days and still couldn't see the sea. No, the direction can't be wrong. I'm already in the integration stage. Zuyun was also suspicious. He was in a completely unfamiliar environment and had not seen the sea at all. What on earth happened? Could it be that all the fragments of the cosmic glazed mirror returned and destroyed this place? But the spiritual energy has obviously become richer. Zuyun was confused and decided not to rush around like a headless fly, but to run away in one direction at high speed. Another few days of running. He appeared in a swampy land. But what's also strange is that there are no signs of life in this swamp. He was certain that there were no swamps in the North Mortal realm. So, where did this swamp come from? There were too many strange things, but Zuyun still kept his plan and moved on. The world of the universe moves in one direction and can eventually return to its original place. He believed that Huangming scene was like this too. For several days, he crossed the swamp, and finally a familiar scene appeared in front of him. He couldn't remember exactly where he was, but he could feel that he had been here before. The spiritual world is undoubtedly the spiritual world. The northern mortal world and the spiritual world are really combined. Zuyun looked back and suddenly his mind became clear. I remembered, that swamp, was the original Arctic ice field. The ice and snow melted, and finally turned into a swamp. No living beings had time to get here, and no new living beings were born. After this idea appeared, Zuyun was no longer as confused as before. The northern icefield is in the far north of the spiritual world. The northern mortal world is originally a mortal world named after its direction. So the northern mortal world and the spiritual world merge into one, so naturally it is in the north. Then, did those monks also fly across the swamp and then reach the spiritual world? Indeed, after the two worlds are connected, it seems that even the obstacles have been eliminated, and the spiritual energy is naturally flowing. But in comparison, the spiritual energy in the spiritual world is still more abundant. But, where did they go in the spiritual world? Zuyun narrowed his eyes and decided to ignore them for the time being. Lengbing has already ordered all the demon cultivators to go to Jiden sect, and he should rush there as well. Although the speed of time in the immortal mansion and the great universe world is several times different, a lot of time is actually consumed on the way back. Without further ado, let's go. Zuyun had a clear goal and turned eastward without stopping. As the scene under his feet became more and more familiar, Zuyun also saw many monks in a hurry. Among these people, there are spiritual cultivators, demonic cultivators, and demon cultivators. The realms are also different. But no one has surpassed Zuyun's integration stage. Come to think of it, people above the integration stage are hiding when they should be hiding, right? Yes, they probably just want to practice in peace. Zuyunru thought, you must know that it was Lengbing who summoned the powerful demon cultivators during this period of tribulation. On the human side, Zuyun had no arrangements except for the immortal light sect. Xianxia should also be taking people from the Xianguang sect to the Jiden section. I hope I can still make it in time. Zuyun flew all the way, and the further east he went, the more monks he encountered. Their expressions were all the same, as if they were all fleeing from the east. A few days later, Zuyun finally discovered a monk in the integration stage. This is the first integration period he has encountered since returning to the spirit world. Fellow Taoist, please stay. I have a question to ask you. Zuyun quickly chased after him and shouted loudly. What do you want to ask, fellow Taoist? A clear voice came, and Zuyun realized that this was actually a female cultivator. I just came out of seclusion. I wanted to go to the outer world to have a look. But along the way, I found these monks in a hurry. So I was very puzzled and wanted to ask the fairy to clarify my confusion. How long has it been, and you still want to go to the outer world? Listen to me, run as far away as possible. If possible, it's best to run to the mortal world. The female cultivator suddenly said anxiously. Zuyun's eyes flashed, what happened to Tianhui Tiansheng? The female cultivator took a deep breath, and her chest heaved. Countless demonic cultivators came from the 9 Netherlands and gathered towards the outer sky. Among them, there are also a few who are in the tribulation stage. Those of us who are in the integration stage, yes, why don't you run away and wait for death? After that, she gave Zuyun a slight blessing and continued to fly to the west. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1547. Fairy, please stay. Zuyun knew that the female cultivator had misunderstood, so he shouted quickly. Fellow Taoist, cultivating the Tao is not easy. If you want to die, please don't drag me along. The female cultivator stopped and turned to look at Zuyun, but her expression was full of vigilance to prevent Zuyun from making a sudden move. Zuyun touched his nose and said with a wry smile, the devil cultivators focus on Tianhui Tian, maybe for other reasons. I heard that the last time Tianhui Tian shook, it shocked many evil cultivators. Evil cultivator? What is that? The woman had never heard of such a title before, and she couldn't help but be stunned. Zuyun was not surprised. There are not many people who know about evil cultivation, and most of them are powerful people in the tribulation period. They also went through the chaos of evil cultivators before, and then went into seclusion. This time Leng Bing also summoned all the people he knew who were in the tribulation period before he gathered all the demon cultivators in the 9 Netherlands. But there were some demon cultivators who were not from the same sect, and they did not force them. So along the way, Zuyun could also see that among the people running away, there were even demon cultivators. It is conceivable that the noise caused by Leng Leng and the others may not be small. It is even possible to scare the evil cultivators in Kunlun. If this is the case, Zuyun would like to go all out and kill all the evil cultivators in Kunlun at once. But this requires the human monks and the demon saints to work together. Of course not all realms can participate. But at least it needs an integration period. It's not surprising that the fairy doesn't know about evil cultivators. If the fairy believes what I'm saying, how about listening to what I say? Seeing Zuyun's sincere expression and the fact that they were both in the integration stage, she felt that she had the power to protect herself when facing Zuyun. He simply nodded and said, "Just tell me." "Fairy, my surname is Zhu, and my last name is Yun. I am a monk from the Eastern Mortal Realm. In fact, when I was still in the foundation building stage, I had a trace of karma with the evil cultivator." Zuyun started from the demon refining tower, talked about Yao Fuzong, and talked about Aniao's good and evil thoughts. However, he did not mention the nightmare demon. Finally, he talked about meeting Leng Bing in the Lingjian sect, but replaced him with a demon cultivator who had transcended the tribulation period, and did not tell the origin of Leng Bing. At the same time, the news about Qingping Fairy Kingdom was also hidden. First, he was afraid that the woman would hear too much news at once. Secondly, Qingping Immortal Kingdom is too incredible. But just that, the female cultivator was shocked beyond measure. "I have heard that some monks have practiced the magic of demons, but I always thought that this was done by demon cultivators. That's why I ran away in the opposite direction when I saw the demon cultivators gathered in Jiden sect this time." Zuyun talked about his cold relationship, although it was a bit shocking. But in the mortal world, there are limitations of heaven, and the strength is at the same level. Zuyun saved Leng Bing, and the demon cultivator has always had clear grudges, which is understandable. After hesitating for a moment, the woman nodded and said, "Then, fellow Taoist Zhu, I will follow you to see the outer world. If evil cultivators are in power, I am afraid that even our spiritual world will not be able to escape." Zhu Yongzi smiled again and said, "That's right, so those of us who are somewhat capable should go over and contribute a little bit." The woman nodded and said, "Fellow Taoist, my surname is Zhu, just call me a Zhu. Don't think that I am in the combined stage, but in fact I am just a casual cultivator. So, please don't be offended if the information is not available." "No, no," Zuyun waved his hands repeatedly and said, "Fairy Azu can consider the human race in the spiritual world, and Zuyun is already grateful." Azu smiled bitterly and said, "I wish you, fellow Taoist, don't put a high hat on my head. It's just that I take a longer view. The higher the realm of monks, the more they will treasure their hard-won strength, and as they get closer to ascension, they will become more worried about years of hard training. The longevity of the combined stage also lasts for thousands of years. Over time, it becomes somewhat of a torment. When it comes to cultivating immortals, the further you go, the more important your character becomes. I can't stand the great loneliness. Where can one achieve great freedom? Fairy Azu, then let's go together." Zuyun clasped his fists, then turned around first and continued flying towards the east. But just when Azu's body moved, a huge spiritual power suddenly came out and enveloped the two of them in an instant. Azu's expression changed, and he exclaimed, transcending the tribulation period. I wish you, fellow Taoist, run away. As soon as he finished speaking, Azu had already fled into the distance. But Zuyun looked at the glow in the sky in the distance and smiled knowingly. Fairy Azu, don't be afraid, this is also my friend. Wish you, fellow Taoist, this is the period of transcending tribulation. If you are so disrespectful, I'm afraid. Azu was so frightened that he passed through the tribulation period so quickly. But in the blink of an eye, a woman covered in glow stood in front of Zuyun. Lord, I wish, fellow Taoist, you didn't expect to meet you here. Fairy Xianxia almost called her master. She saw Zuyun and Azu from a distance. They seemed to be going together earlier, so when she saw Azu trying to escape, it was of course impossible to embarrass her. And when Azu heard Fairy Xianxia's warm address, she was stunned in place. Zuyun, he is actually worthy of being a fellow Taoist in the tribulation period. Meet senior. When Azu met Fairy Xianxia's smiling eyes, she couldn't help but be frightened and came to her senses, and hurriedly greeted her. You are a friend of Taoist Zu, so you don't need to be so reserved. After saying it casually, Fairy Xianxia made a move, and the glow in the sky dispersed, and the aura she inadvertently exuded also returned to her body at the same time. Xianxia, why did you come now? Zuyun didn't calculate the time, but based on the day they parted in Juyu land, they should have almost arrived at Jidan sect. Something happened to the Xianguang section. I took care of it, so I was late. However, all the disciples of the Xianguang sect, regardless of their level, have all gone. Zuyun frowned and said, there is no need to go to those who are under the fusion, lest they become cultivation resources for evil cultivators and increase their strength. Fairy Xianxia smiled bitterly and said, everyone says go, but I can't help it. Zuyun suddenly realized that the disciples of Xianguang sect would definitely be like this after knowing that it was his order. I remember that at that time, fighting that monster in the sea almost won the hearts of the people. Naturally, they would regard Zuyun's matter as their own matter. What about Xiu? Hearing this, Fairy Xianxia tightened her expression and said in a solemn voice, the trouble I'm talking about is sect leader Nangong Xiu. Nangong. Zuyun's eyes suddenly widened. The main lineage of Moyin sect all have the surname Nangong. So does this surname have anything to do with Nangong Tianli? I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1548. Tell me quickly, what happened? Zuyun asked quickly. Fairy Xianxia took out a flying boat and said, let's go first, let's talk on the way. Zuyun nodded. Azu was a little hesitant at first, but then he thought about it. Since Zuyun can go through the tribulation period with Fairy Xianxia, it not only proves what he said before, but also gives him a sense of security. So, she also followed Fiazhu. After Fairy Xianxia injected spiritual power into the flying boat, she said, that day, after you and I parted ways in Moyo sect, we rushed back to Xianguang section. When we returned, Nangong Xiu was nowhere to be seen. I didn't care at first. After all, she is the leader of a sect and her level is no higher than nascent soul. She may have gone to practice. But after half a month, I mobilized all the monks, and after everything was prepared, I found that Nangong Xiu was nowhere to be seen in the sect. Later, when I inquired with several elders, I found out that when I went to the Juyu land, several monks from the East Mortal realm came. They claimed to be Nangong Xiu's close relatives and took Xiu away. Zuyun frowned. Xiu's closest relative was naturally Nangong Yin. He thought about it carefully and found out that a group of demon saints once said that Nangong Yin entered the spiritual world passage with them and reached the spiritual world. But after arriving in the spirit world, they separated. His friendship with Nangong Yin was not very deep, so he didn't pay too much attention to it at the time. Looking back at this moment, did Nangong Yin have a premeditated plan? Could it be that he is a descendant of Nangong Tianli? Zuyun had no clue, so he asked, "So, you went to find Nangong Xiu?" "Yes," Fairy Chixia nodded and said, "if I am walking with the disciples of Xianguang sect, my speed depends on their realm. It is better to let them go first, and I will look for Nangong Xiu alone. I can catch up with them again." But who would have thought, I just searched and found a clue. I traced it all the way to the Nine Netherland. Unfortunately, the clue was cut off from there. All the demon cultivators followed Lengbing to the ultimate alchemy sect, and I had no one to turn to, so I had to give up. Before coming, I also went back to the Xianguang sect to make sure that there was still no one there. After that, I came alone. Zuyun frowned, but he remembered how Nangong Xiu came to the spirit world. Come over from the Nine Netherland with Urgu. Her clues disappeared in the Nine Netherlands, could that be? Have you gone to the East Mortal realm? Sighing, Zuyundeo said, let's deal with the evil cultivators first. I think so too. After all, evil cultivators endanger the entire spiritual world. How can Nangong show off a girl's movie and cause trouble in the spiritual world? Fairy Chixia smiled and didn't take it too seriously. After all, Zuyun also said that he would deal with the evil cultivators first. But Zuyun sighed in his heart, that's because you don't know. If Nangong Xiu and the Nangong family may be related to the immortal emperor, I'm afraid you won't be able to laugh at this time. The entire journey was speechless. Zuyun kept thinking about things in the East Mortal realm without saying anything. Fairy Chixia drove the flying boat with peace of mind. Azu didn't even dare to speak. Just like that, after flying for several days, they finally flew into the outer sky. Ever since Tianyi changed, the rules here seem to have disappeared. Looking around, countless monks and some flying boats were flying in the sky. Among them, there are also some demon saints. However, they all come from all directions and head towards Kunlun. Zuyun couldn't help but ask curiously, is there anyone else coming? Yes, Fairy Chixia nodded and said, I also contacted a few friends and called them together. I said that I was going to the Jidan sect to hold a meeting of the Good and Demon Alliance, which is related to the safety of the spiritual world. So, many monks who are in retreat are here. Zuyun sighed, at that time, I thought that all the monks in the spiritual world were gone during the Ascension to Immortality meeting, but then there was a secret realm of Ascension to Immortality. I also thought that all the monks were out in the secret realm of Ascension to Immortality this time, but who knew, at this time, there are so many monks. Fairy Chixia said, Friend Zudeo, I don't know anything. In fact, the secret realm of Ascension to Immortality suddenly disappeared at that time, and many monks appeared out of thin air in various places in the spiritual world. As far as I know, some were transported to the mortal world. Zuyun was stunned for a moment. In other words, when the Ascension secret realm was shattered, he always thought that all the monks who had not come out were dead. But I didn't expect that it would be like this. I have a good friend who was also teleported. I only learned about it when we contacted him this time. He came from the Xiphon realm, so he was teleported back to the Xiphon realm. How could this be? Zuyun smiled bitterly, but felt that it was somewhat reasonable. I thought that the matter of ascending to the secret realm of immortality was over, but when I mentioned it again, I felt mixed emotions in my heart. But for Zuyun, it is a good thing. After all, more humans will be able to go deal with the evil cultivators. The greater the strength, the greater the chance of winning. After fighting Nangong Tianli, he knew that these evil cultivators had many tricks. When the strength is equal, evil cultivators have many ways to deal with monks. After asking Fairy Chixia for some information, the flying boat had already arrived at Jidan sect and landed directly on Jidan Peak. Visiting the old place again, Zuyun also suddenly felt like a dream. Ha ha ha, congratulations to fellow Taoist, You are finally here. As soon as he landed, a group of demon cultivators who transcended tribulations came to greet him in person, which made Azu shocked again. Many of these demon cultivators were legends he had heard of, although they were notorious. Seniors, I am ashamed that I am late. Zuyun was still very polite. We were worried about you. Fellow deist Leng said that you went to the northern mortal realm, but who knew that the northern mortal realm changed for some reason and was connected to the spirit realm? We thought at first that you had some mysterious magical power. But we have been waiting for almost a month, and there is no news from you. Leng Bing also smiled. It happened that the thorn demon smelled your breath, so I called everyone to come together. Zuyun smiled, glanced at the thorn demon next to Leng Bing, and suddenly his heart moved. This is a real extraterritorial demon. If he can communicate with him, can he know some news about the nightmare demon? For example, what characteristics do people born after the nightmare demon combines with humans have? After secretly keeping this thought in mind, Zuyun also greeted the group of tribulation stages one by one, and then asked about the current situation. It's hard to say, Leng Bing shook his head and said, we haven't found any evil cultivators since we came here. I'm afraid. What are you afraid of? Zuyun had a bad thought in his mind. I'm afraid that these evil cultivators didn't hide back, but scattered and went to some mortal world. After saying this, Zuyun's eyes suddenly turned cold, and he said in a serious tone, so, do you want to destroy the Kunlun Mountains? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1549. We would like to destroy it, but unfortunately we don't have the ability. Leng Bing smiled bitterly, as monks in their realm all know that Kunlun Mountain is actually a flying mountain in the sky. Moreover, if it could be destroyed, it might have been destroyed long ago. Is it their turn? Zuyun thought for a moment and said, what you mean is that you have all searched in this mountain and found no place for evil cultivation. Yes, a demon cultivator also nodded and said, if ordinary minor cultivators go there, they will definitely not find the evil cultivators, but when we went there in person, we also found nothing. Although we also found many caves, we have already found them. The building is empty. Another demon cultivator stood up and said, the most important thing is that these evil cultivators seem to have all disappeared in one night. During this period, we found some sects in the world, and they were tortured by the evil cultivators. It also shows that evil cultivators do exist. Zuyun glanced at him and said, of course the evil cultivators are here, am I still going to lie to you? Moreover, I also killed 3 evil immortals with my own hands. Zuyun originally came to Yao Fuzong. But on second thought, Yao Fuzong may not be convincing enough. First, he killed him in the East Mortal Realm, and second, it took a long time. Who are the other 2? All the demon cultivators were shocked and focused their attention on Zuyun. Zuyun sneered, Virgin of the Dirty Way. Just this name has shocked all the demon cultivators. But then, Zuyun once again spit out a name that shocked them extremely. Liwo Immortal Lord. The air is almost freezing. With their state of mind, it is natural that they have heard of these 2 evil cultivators. Not to mention that they are all in the tribulation period, their strength is even more amazing. You know, they are not completely hiding, but they can still walk in the spirit world. Their strength is naturally evident. Have you met them already? It was also the first time that Leng Bing heard Zuyun talk about these 2 people. I thought that the Huang Laoxi I met was powerful enough. Unexpectedly, Zuyun actually fought against those 2 people. With Zuyun's age and experience, it was naturally impossible for Xianxia's name to be made up out of thin air. Therefore, What Zhu Yun said is naturally true. I killed the Zhangdao Venerable in the North Icefield. Zhu Yun knew that Master Zhangdao died in Ye Yuan's hands. But Ye Yuan estimated that he would ascend to the immortal world. The other person who knew about this was Sun Qiniang. Now Sun Qiniang is missing, and she is not a talkative person. Liwo Immortal Lord, I killed him in the southern mortal realm. He has been operating in the southern mortal realm for a long time, and there are even signs of reaching out to other mortal realms. Southern mortal realm. The demon cultivators frowned at first, but then they seemed to think of something and stopped talking. But at this time, they no longer had any doubts about Zhu Yun. Leng Bing said, Zhu Yun, what do you mean, are these evil cultivators likely to go to the mortal world? Zhu Yun nodded and said, yes, I came back from the northern mortal realm, and the northern mortal realm and the spiritual realm were reconnected. Then, it is very likely that the other three mortal realms will encounter evil cultivators. I think this instead, it's our chance. A demon cultivator said, if we are in the spiritual world, our advantage lies in the large number of people, but we cannot achieve very good results. But in the mortal world, everyone is suppressed in the nascent soul stage, and then they will have all kinds of mysterious methods. I'm afraid he won't be our opponent. Good. Zhu Yun showed a smile on his face and said, under this situation, we can divide our troops into 3 groups. As long as they are monks in the nascent soul stage, they can be brought to the mortal world. There is another problem, a demon cultivator frowned, it is not easy to go to the mortal world. Although the mortality rate is not high, but... Ha ha ha, Leng Bing laughed and said, Zhu Yun has great magical powers, but there is a way to go to the mortal world unscathed. Hearing this, all the demon cultivators were immediately overjoyed. Zhu Yun pondered for a moment and said, friend Leng is right. I have come from the mortal world and returned to the mortal world several times. I also discovered a little secret during the process. Without further ado, I will make a long story short and go to the mortal world. If the world... Everyone was silent and listened quietly to Zhu Yun's explanation of the secret of the passage between the 4 mortal worlds and the spiritual world. Then, he passed on the void-breaking spirit eye technique to them. For those in the tribulation stage, this method is not mysterious. With just a little practice, they have mastered it. Next, we need to divide our troops into 3 groups. The northern mortal realm and the spiritual realm are connected together. Moreover, I have searched all the way from the northern mortal realm and have not found anything strange. I have not even seen a few monks. And I come from the east mortal realm. I am familiar with it, so I will be responsible for the Dong mortal realm. Leng Bing comes with me, and the rest of you will split up. Zhu Yun pondered for a moment and said, you, the passerby, will bring all the demon cultivator disciples. The other passerby will bring the disciples of the Xianguang section. Xianxia. Exist. Xianxia shouted softly and stood over. You go to the southern mortal realm and find someone who has left home. A monk named Li Mo is a good friend of mine. After you tell him your intention, ask them to cooperate with you. Do you understand? Understood. A demonic cultivator looked at Zhu Yun meaningfully and said, what about you? All the cultivators here were taken away by us. Just you and Leng Bing. I'm telling Zhu Dao, I wish Senior to go to the East Mortal Realm. Zhu said suddenly. Zhu Yun laughed dumbly and said first, it's not convenient for you to follow me. If you want to go, just follow Xianxia. At this moment, he no longer needs to pretend. And everything revealed has already shocked Zhu to the extreme in this combined stage. In the mortal world, as long as you don't fall into the tricks of evil cultivators, you will basically not be harmed. So everyone, when you go, be careful and don't be arrogant because of the crowd. Secondly, Zhu Yun looked at Leng Bing and smiled casually, the monks in the East Mortal Realm, all call me Zhu Xian. That is my territory. Those evil cultivators can't make any trouble. Come. Seeing Zuyun being so confident, the other demon cultivators couldn't say anything. But it is also possible to kill the Luo Immortal Lord and the Zhangdao Lord. This shows that his strength is not as weak as his realm. Then let's meet here then. A demon cultivator suggested. It's still a bit far from the outside world. Let's meet at the Xianguang sect then. Zuyun raised his hands to everyone, then called Lengbing over and said, they still have to go to the main passage. Fellow Daoist Leng, come with me. Amidst everyone's puzzled eyes, Zuyun jumped down from Jiden Peak with a cold look. Because here is another passage leading to the East Mortal Realm. Cliff of Heaven. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1550. Lengbing followed without hesitation. After meeting Zuyun, he believed in Zuyun without any doubt. Fellow Daoist Zhu, can we go to Dongfan realm from here? After landing, Lengbing found himself in a natural formation, and he was very curious. Yes, I have been there before, and I can go directly to Dongsheng realm in Dongfan realm. Zuyun's eyes turned, and the last time the water incarnation passed by here, the memory naturally remained in his heart. However, going to Dongsheng realm again. It also reminded him of the 12 demon saints. I don't know what will happen under the light of the totem pole. You are still awesome, Lengbing said with a bitter smile. I was miserable at that time. I was chased all the way from the wild sea, and I was seriously injured before I arrived at Dongfan realm. That's just because you are busy practicing, and don't know how to explore the secrets of this world. Zuyun also teased. One person and one demon followed Zuyun and kept moving forward. When they had traveled an unknown distance, the thorn demon suddenly stopped, looked behind with a vigilant look, and warned Lengbing. Huh? What's wrong? Zuyun couldn't communicate with the thorn demon, so he immediately looked at Lengbing. It said that it seemed that there were its kind not far away. Outer demon. Zuyun was shocked. At that time, the rabbit demon tribe in Dongsheng realm was under the control of an extreme demon, and there were a constant stream of rabbit demons jumping into the pregnant river. Just to pass on the essence of the spirit, so that it can grow stronger and be used by the extreme demon. Fortunately, the extreme demon was killed in the end. At that time, he had always guessed that the extreme demon came from the broken immortal river in Qingping fairyland to Dongsheng realm. Could it be that it was not? But from the cliff of heaven to Dongsheng realm? Yes. Lengbing just uttered this word. The fairy magic skills he learned were the skills of the demon clan. However, the skills of the demon clan called the outer demon an ancient demon beast. For now, the evil cultivation is more important. Zuyun paused and said, anyway, there is no danger in the spiritual world for the time being. If this extraterritorial demon can get out easily, it will not be trapped here. This is also his judgment. He determined that the extraterritorial demon could not leave the cliff of heaven. He thought that after solving the affairs of the mortal world, he would come to see this demon beast. Lengbing nodded, and regardless of the spirit and demon aura behind him, the two of them and the demon rushed towards the eastern mortal world. Zuyun also thought in his heart, this should also be a teleportation formation. Otherwise, the eastern mortal world and the spiritual world are also separated by a sea area. How can they pass through? Every mortal world has a main passage and two secondary passages leading to the spiritual world. The cliff of heaven is a secondary passage, but it is in the natural formation of the cliff of heaven. So is there actually a teleportation formation in the natural formation? Zuyun couldn't help but have this idea in his mind, but at the moment, he didn't have time to think about it. If there is a chance, bring City Lord Shui out to see. But at that time, we have to wait until the affairs of the spiritual world are settled. After a long silence, they appeared in Dongsheng realm. Zuyun and Lengbing both felt that their realm was suppressed. Even the thorn demon seemed to be extremely uncomfortable. Let's go to Yao realm first. There are relatively more human beings in Yao realm. The reason why the evil cultivators are called evil is that they are too evil to the human race. Zhu Yun's first thought was to return to Lingjian sect. It would be great if there was a teleportation array here. Leng Bing and Zhu Yun had walked through Dongfan realm, so they knew about it and couldn't help but sigh. After being suppressed to the nascent soul stage, the speed dropped sharply, which was still a bit uncomfortable. Maybe there is, but I don't know where it is. Zhu Yun shrugged and thought that there were several teleportation arrays in Yao realm, so there should be some in Dongsheng realm. It was indeed as he said, he didn't know. In the past, except for Yao realm and Peepa realm, the other two realms were not connected. But Zhu Yun suddenly remembered the array order obtained from the remnant soul of the five elements wanderer. With a thought in his mind, he took out the array order from the ring. How about, give it a try? Maybe, I can also teleport to the misty forest? This can save a lot of time. Anyway, looking for evil cultivators is aimless, and going to the Spirit Sword sect is just to find a place to stay, and then go to the great universe world to see the situation. It doesn't hurt to try. Thinking of this, Zhu Yun shook the array order and said, Leng Bing, walk around by yourself, I'll try it with this. What is this? Leng Bing cast a glance. The thing that Wu Xing San Ren gave me, I teleported to the misty forest before, but that was an accident. This time, I want to try it. That's fine, Leng Bing thought for a while, and said, at worst, if I encounter an evil cultivator, I will run away if I can't defeat him. Evil cultivators usually travel alone, and he has the thorn demon by his side. Being in the nascent soul stage, Leng Bing is not afraid, and believes that he can escape the danger. Okay, Zhu Yun smiled, maybe I can get to the Spirit Sword sect before you. After saying that, Zhu Yun concentrated his mind and transferred the chaos force into the formation order. Instantly, a series of formation patterns flashed on the formation order. Sure enough, compared with the last time, Zhu Yun felt a completely different aura. At the same time, the formation pattern was also slightly different. He frowned, and the next moment, the formation pattern wrapped him up, and he fell into darkness. This darkness was not the void where he had passed through the teleportation array several times before, but a completely different kind. It was pitch dark, and even the spiritual consciousness could not be released. After only a moment, Zhu Yun found that his feet were on the ground. But the situation was still the same. Where is this? He was slightly stunned, and while looking around, he quickly used the divine eye technique. Suddenly, everything he saw was in sight. This was a small space, closed on all sides, and no light could penetrate. It's really amazing. Zhu Yun smiled bitterly and spread his spiritual consciousness to the entire space. There was no living creature. No, there is no living creature, so is there something else? He frowned and walked towards the edge. It seems to be, in a mountain? But what mountain is this? Why can it block my spiritual consciousness? He was very curious, and after thinking for a moment, he activated the chaos force and pressed it slightly. Crack! A crisp sound came from the hand. Zhu Yun was stunned. Is this space so unstable? After thinking for a while, Zhu Yun took his hand back. If this space collapsed and he escaped into the void, he would have no place to cry. Go find City Lord Xue to help. Zhu Yun's figure flashed and he entered the universe again. Zhu Yun, you are finally here. Just as he arrived at the world tree, the refreshing voice of the array immortal came over.